Hello everyone. Malamugwa kajerun wangame. Chala jego ba message bala nywaka ye today. Normally lana rai ka tong nuara ko dong ba riat ko ba nywaka ye kel. Mara wala goro ba rai ka kwi kama do dien. Rai ye kwi kama tuwa ka community dan. Adore me that I find really difficult. Jaga ja beja long. But tangwan the kwi ran manong di lel ka kwi da. You can share your thoughts and we chat ka kwi da more. And then be a come nay go kien go bekan min char kan bekan la withen normally la right ka tong no ara ko la right ko la share go ro be ne kon be tong no ara bekan ngaj at the same time be right ko bekan ngaj ba but a wala message en belat go ro be lat ka to ko wa ne ko nay de nong be ling there may be people that don't speak Nuer language. So the message I want to share today is about a trend that is happening within our community, especially those of us in the Western world here, in Australia, in the US, in Canada, and in other Western countries. You know, a question has been bothering me about the trend of suicide that is happening among our youth, our young people. And it is really heartbreaking. It seemed like no month passed without a child committing a suicide, and most of these kids, they are from 16 years of age, sometimes even younger, up to under 30s. They're not really kids, they are teenagers and young men. And you know, I always ask myself, why do our most precious asset of all have to perish like this in this land without us doing anything about it? You know, our young people are killing themselves, whether they committing suicide or they shooting themselves or they dying from drugs or alcohol. And it is so difficult because they are the future. They are our future, especially those of us who came from war-torn countries. We come here for better life so we can go back home and help our people. But instead, our youth are not doing very good at all. They are getting into crimes, they are getting into trouble with the police, and they're ending up killing each other and themselves. This is so sad. Every time this happens, it kind of strikes me like a sharp knife in the chest, and I don't know what to do about it. You know, as South Sudanese, we fled from a war-torn country because of civil war. Our country has been in 21 years fighting with those in the North Sudan. And then after the independence, we went into war among ourselves, and it's still affecting millions of people to this very day. And we come to this beautiful country of Australia. We hope that this country will help improve our lives so we can go back to South Sudan, or we can change the way of thinking, you know. Instead of thinking like those dictators back home, we can bring the system we have learned here that work in the Western world and adopt it so we can help our people. But instead, unfortunately, Australia has become a graveyard for our children. And this is really hard. They are the most important thing to us because these are the future leaders. These are the future of South Sudanese community. Why are our youth dying like flies? they're dying every time. You know, this trend is actually getting worse, especially during this pandemic. It seemed to have gotten worse so bad. What may be the reason behind these trends? The death of our youth. Why are they killing themselves? And how can we reverse this trend? How can we save the life of these youth to help them live normal lives without getting into crimes? Well, you have heard from people that you have to identify the problem first in order to solve it. You cannot deal with a problem that you don't know. So first, we need to identify what could be contributing to this trend that is happening in our community. Today, I'm just going to focus on one thing. I'm not going to talk about all the issues why our youth are killing themselves. I feel like one of the major problems that is facing our youth today and contributing to their death is the breakdown of the family. The family is the backbone of every society. And a society without strong families, without family values, they are doomed to destruction. They will no longer be a nation or a people because they have lost the nucleus of who they are, the family. Back home in South Sudan, we really have very strong families. You got mom and dad with kids. Sometimes the father will have multiple wives, and even though they know how to manage them really well, not that I condone polygamy, but we really had a strong families. Everybody know what role to play within family, and they know the purpose why they are in a family and what is their part in the family. When I was young, I grew up without a father because my dad, he died when I was very young. I was about a year old, and then my mom had to flee to Ethiopia. So we grew up there, but I still had a father figure in my life. My uncle was a father figure. But my mom filled the role of a father and mother at the same time. We all play a role within our family. And when we become a bit rebellious, our uncle will correct us. Hey, kids, don't do this. You should be doing this instead of this. Don't get into trouble. And you know what? We turned out to be well. We didn't get into trouble. We had a very strong family. And then life was very difficult. My mom, as a woman, she had to go cut some trees down and start a corn farm where she had to plant crops. I was 7 years old at the time, and even though I couldn't do much of the manual work and the tilting of the ground because everything has to be done manually, I do play my part. I would go and look after the crops so the pests don't come and eat them like fox and birds. And I would, the weed that has been cut from the farm, I will throw it away so it doesn't grow within the farm, so it doesn't kill the corn. And even my sisters, they would play their part. My sister that I'm following, I call her my younger sister, even though she's older than me because she's the youngest sister in the family. So she would cook for us. My other sister would be going to the marketplace, selling some flour so we can have something to eat. And then even my little brother, even though he was only 3, he did have a part to play as well. He would sing for us. We were very happy. Well, I have an older brother. Maybe I didn't mention him. He came to Australia when I was only 8. So maybe that's why. Maybe I didn't mention him that much because I a lot of these things happened when he was here in Australia. I hope he will understand when he hears this message. I didn't mean to leave him out. But anyway, what am I trying to say in all of this? I'm trying to say that families, for them to be strong, everyone needs to have a sense of purpose and a role to play within the family. Even though we were poor, we were happy because we know where we belong, we have an identity, we have a purpose and a meaning in life. This is not very unique to our family. This was very common in many South Sudanese families, and this is how most people grew up. But when people come to Australia, things change. They enter into uncharted territory. They come into different country with different culture and different norms and different language. And I remember the first time when I came to this country, I feel like I didn't even know where I was, or who I am, or why am I even here. I didn't know the culture. I didn't even know the language. I couldn't even understand what these people are saying. And sometimes this can become very challenging, especially when people don't make the transition from the life they used to live to this new life that they are entering into. And this causes a lot of instability. People don't stay strong. And we can all enter into an identity crisis, like what the psychologists would call it, an identity crisis, whether individually or collectively, as a family or as a community. So this sense of being lost can happen to all of us. So when our families came to Australia, it seemed like everybody lost their role and purpose within the family. We came as refugees, and you know what? We were put straight into the welfare system in this country to help us start. But we stayed there for years and for many years. A lot of us, we didn't really leave refugee camp. We just changed the place. We were in UNHCR, and now we are in Centrelink, and that's where most South Sudanese people are in. So most of us didn't become independent. Instead, we become just refugees in a different place. So instead of establishing strong roots to support ourselves, finding a job, and being strong, independent, we live our lives and we let things just happen to us. We just continue that dependent mentality that we had in refugee camp. Because of war, that was understandable. But when we come into this land, we have opportunity to establish ourselves, to do whatever we can achieve. So when we first come here, we heard of the cry of the freedom. Hey, everyone can do whatever they want in this country. If you are a husband, don't even worry. You don't have to work. Anyone can work here, so don't worry being the breadwinner. And if you are the wife, don't worry about that foolish husband. If he acts rudely to you, you can call the police on him and kick him out of your home. And children, if your parents are not nice to you, you can call the Department of Child Protection. They will put you somewhere else. You don't have to deal with those old school people that come from very uneducated country. And that was the life we took on. We think when we come into Western society, we can just act like that. So we didn't know the laws and how they function in this land. And we ruin our families. It seemed like we were all freed from the bondage of our family. But we forgot that it is not the family that we were freed from. We ran away from dictators who were fighting over resources in our countries. Instead of serving their citizen, they just took the resource of the country and fighting over it. Our families were fine. We had strong families. It's just our country that was not in peace. Why do we have to throw away the strong families we have? So this is the issue. And I feel like the welfare system we are in have done a lot of damage and harms to us than good. For example, most of our families are headed by single mothers. They are not headed by father. There's no father in the house. Most of men, they just been freed from doing anything. They don't feel like they should work. It's only the poor wife with a kid. This started like a nice plan. This is how it started actually. The mother would go and register herself at Centrelink as a single mother and lie to the Department of Housing that she's experiencing domestic violence so she could get a free house, public house. Well, not free, she's going to be renting it at a cheaper price, but she can get a higher pay at Centrelink as a single mother. I'm not denying that there are domestic violence that are happening, but for most, this is not the case at all. A lot of people aren't going through domestic violence. So this happened like a nice plan, that these people that think they are single mother, they think it's a good plan. But they are not so single, because every year or 2 years you see them having children all the time with the divorced husband. Yeah, the husband they kick out is still fathering children all the time to boost the Centrelink payment instead of getting a job and supporting his own family. So this was done by many people. They think it's a nice plan. But, they said when you cry wolf, wolf, the wolf will come one day and will get you. If you pretend, you lie to yourself that you are going through something, it will come and get you. Now this single mother, they have become independent even though they relying on welfare system. You know what happened? The father is freed from any responsibility. All they will do is to sit in the house, talk about politics and SPLMIO, Salva Kiir, Riek Machar, all of these things that have nothing related to them here. They fled the country because they weren't happy with the situation there. But now, they just talk about the politics back home. They got nothing to do. They've been freed from being the breadwinner. They just become lame duck with nothing to do but going to their friends, talking about politics and how terrible their wives are and how difficult the kids are in this country without doing anything about those problems. And then problems start to happen. Things start to deteriorate from there. Wives, they will think, hey, we need a husband who's such a useless husband. Maybe I should really divorce him and get another man who can help me out. But she's too late, because this man is already planning to get a young chick in Africa about the age of his daughter, a young girl. She's maybe 18 or 15 or 17 or 20, while he's like 40. And then, he would just go there, married her. He doesn't have to bring her to Australia, because who want to bring another woman to Australia who might kick you out of the home? You can just keep her in Africa, right? And just send her $200 a month. That's not a big responsibility, is it? And this is the situation. So who's suffering after that? The one suffering is that single mother. She thinks she was doing herself a favor, but she ended up being the one suffering the most, you know? And in fact, it's not her who suffered the most, it's the kids. While all of these things were happening, the kids will be watching. They will be watching very closely. And most kids will become confused about why their parent can't just get along. They will begin to blame themselves. Oh, it's my fault. Why my parents are going through this? Maybe it's because of me. And they will begin to show signs of rebellions. They'll start coming home very late from school. Because who wants to come home where there's no love and happiness? I could just stay with my friends. And they'll start spending time with friends, especially wrong friends, who their parents are not even aware of. And then when they come home, they will just go straight to their bedroom and spend most of the time there, either playing video games or chatting with people online that their parent don't even know about. And the only time their parent will see them is when they come out to get something from the fridge. And there is no culture, there's no family environment where relationship could be developed. People don't eat together. It is a terrible trend, and the breakdown of family is what leads to so many problems in our community today, especially the death of our young people. So when a parent tries to enter into their room to talk to his son or his daughter, they will just shout at her, "Get out! Leave me alone! Why do you want to talk to me?" And, mom will go into the rooms. There is, the room is so dirty. There's plates of food, clothes everywhere. And the poor mom will be asking the son, "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Leave me alone. Get out of my room." And some parent will just dismiss these things. God kawaii baka leli chikana gay along. These white kids, what are we going to do with them? We don't know how to deal with them. In all of this, the parent don't even know their poor child is going through severe depression. The parent will just make things worse by talking about stories in South Sudan in the past. Oh, when we were kids, we weren't rebellious like you, blah, blah. And the child will not even relate to that. They don't live in the past. They don't live in your past. They live in the present. And they are suffering depression. And you should be helping them instead of criticizing them. At this time, they're not looking for why you were such a good child when you were a young person. They wanted to know that their parents care for them and love them. And that's what is missing. And you know what? If you cannot help your child, why not find help somewhere? There's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of help. You can take them to your doctor or to the GP, and they can get counseling. They can get medical help. They can see a psychologist, and they will start coming out of that depression. Some kid, instead of addressing their issue, they feel betrayed, and they are betrayed by their family, so they'll go into drugs, to alcohol, and they will join gangs just to find a sense of belonging, to find that they belong somewhere, because they don't fit in the family. When they come, instead of being understood by their parents, they are criticized, they are called names, and they become lost. They cannot fit into the Australian society. They cannot fit into Sudanese community. So they just become lost. And when things don't work out, you will just heard about a young Johnny, that he has been found dead at the station or at the park. And this is so sad. This is so sad. Parents can stop this. We can stop this if we work as a community. Why do we have to worry ourselves about SPLMI or whatever happening in South Sudan? We are here. We got lots of problems to deal with. If we cannot fix our own house here, what makes you think you can become a president or an MP, a member of parliament in South Sudan, if you cannot even rule your own household? That is bad. We are not getting our priorities right. Parents, on the other hand, they have their way of dealing with their issues, especially the single mother, the moms. Well, men as well. Men, they turn into politics and talking about just nonsense. They lost that role of being a father, being an example to your children. Your children want you to be there, not to talk about SPLMIO. That has nothing to do with them. Women, on the other hand, they become parties animals. All they do is to go to parties every weekend. And those little money they get from Centrelink, instead of using them for their children, they go and spend them on new set of hair, new clothes, and how to look better than Nyangadi, that older lady on the other side. And we are distracting ourselves from the real issue that is facing us, and that is facing our kids. You know, instead of spending these precious weekends with your kids that you haven't seen for the 5 weekdays, five days of the week when they were at school, you're just going to spend them partying? Really? This is really the life that we really want? Is this why we came here? So we can destroy our youth and the life that we have here? We are living a very elusive life, a life of delusion. We are not going anywhere. The life of parties and politics will not taking us anywhere. Can't we really do something about our youth? Or do we have to just watch them die like flies every month? Well, this is only a scratch on the surface of just one problem that is affecting our families and contributing to the very demise of our youth. We don't have strong families anymore. No one knows what role to play within the family, and our children are the one paying that cost with their very own life. Please, I want you to understand this is not finger pointing on anyone. This is an expression of feelings that has been bothering me of what's happening in our community. Please, if you see a young person, especially you parents, if you see your children, they start showing signs that something is going wrong, don't leave it too late. Get help. Talk to someone if you cannot talk to them before it is too late and you just heard your little one has died. Please share this with people who would like to hear this message. God help the South Sudanese community.